First and foremost, I do want to say that I did miss out on uploading yesterday, but I have a good excuse. I've been catching up on some reading that I haven't done in FGO Story, because as many of you guys know, I've been doing a big reread, and in fact read all of Lost Belt 3 yesterday and about a quarter of Lost Belt 4. I got so enamored with it and was just so interested in discussing it with friends as we were reading it, that I kind of lost track of time and just assumed I already had something ready to go, so I am very sorry about that. But you know what, just blame FGO Story. Sometimes it's just a little too good or intriguing to talk about with the boys. But you know what else is very intriguing and interesting? The upcoming events for the month of June over here on the NA side of things, which I would say could potentially be even more interesting if they actually gave us Anniversary early, but I'm pretty sure that's still going to be in July. I don't think they're going to move that timetable up, especially when we do have a decent bit of stuff that they could drop during the month of June, mainly the Doggo event, but we also have some advanced quests, and we potentially also have Oku coming back as a main interlude. So strap in, get comfortable, drop a like, maybe subscribe to the channel to stay informed that I would say daily FGO content, but I did just miss out on yesterday's upload. But again, I have a good excuse. The story in the game sometimes is just a little too good, but you know, mostly daily FGO content with just some weird mishaps every now and then. But with that being said, let's just start going over some of the stuff that we will be getting during the month of June. The first thing we should be getting on, I think it's June 3rd, is when the Grailfront banner ends and when the login bonus for the Doggo event ends as well. So we should be seeing it on the 3rd, so really early on into the month. And this is a nice event. I've mentioned it quite a few times, but this is the beginning of, I would say, a nice quality of life change that is added to some of these events that unfortunately doesn't look like something that they keep moving forward. But it is this nice addition to each event, like on top of, say, a point ladder or, you know, other like mini lotto rewards that they might have. They usually have some kind of gimmick in there that kind of encourages you to log back into the game. For this event's going to be the expedition quests, where you will unlock more and more as the event goes on, and you'll essentially send out some dogs to go get you different materials. Certain dogs will gather certain materials faster than others, but it tells you in the game. Like, you can just click on it, it'll be like, well, this one will take 9 hours, but if you use this one, it'll take 6 hours. So they literally just lay all the information out for you, and you could pretty much cherry pick whatever you want, as you can send out a few dogs at a time. So if you're really low on EXP cards and QP, you can do both of those while also sending a dog out to maybe get you some materials that you need. And there is quite a few materials at our disposal here, so that'll be very nice on top of the point reward that we have for the event. Although some people might find it a little more annoying to farm because the event bonus is not very diverse for the event. I mean, it should also just be called the Archer event, because every single Archer is going to have a 30% damage bonus and a 20% bond up, but outside of that, it is only 6 other servants that are going to be getting event bonus. The main 2 are obviously the 2 new servants that are coming out, Baiken and Tamatomo, but then the secondary servants that get the 50% bonus and the 20% bond bonus are Bargist, Izo, Lobo, and Hokusai. Again, I still don't really get why Hokusai is getting the thing on this. I understand that they're both painters, if I understand Baiken correctly. They're both like artist people for Japan, but I thought it was supposed to be all about dogs. But I guess Hokusai gets in there because they're a painting, but then, like, why wouldn't Van Gogh also be in there? Maybe it's because they're both Japanese painters. Maybe that's the whole gimmick, and I'm just thinking too deep about it. That being said, the free quests in this event are going to be fairly normal, except for the 90+ as per usual, which is going to be a 3-1-1 node, but it is against casters and 1 large berserker in the middle, so you can count on your main looper if you're relying on, say, quick or arts to refund a decent bit of their NP, if not all of it in the case of an art servant, for use on the 3rd wave, who is not even that large, only 182k. Scheherazade that you're going to have to be going up against, that does have the man attribute, so break out your Morgans for that one. I would mention that she does also have the female tag, but I mean, what are you going to use Jack against Scheherazade? Not a very good idea if I say so myself, but what can I say? I guess if you have Morgan, you are absolutely eating for this one, but like I said, the first wave being casters means it's really easy to loot back your NP for the following or final node. So if you have somebody that can also clear one of those 2, they can work out very well for that. You could just also bring a single target. You could do some kind of multi-core setup. Kentucky Rider might also be good for this if you, say, have your main looper person loop the first wave and then have them destroy the Berserker on the second wave, and Kentucky Rider can just crush the Scheherazade because she is a free NP5. But then again, you have to have Kentucky Rider to be able to do that. So if you do have him, great, your multi-core is going to be super easy for this event. If you don't, you're going to have to rely on somebody else. Now, that somebody else could be Baiken, who is going to be going on right up on the event. My personal thoughts for her, if you're wondering, oh, should I summon for this servant? I think she's good. In fact, I summoned for her despite her being so close to the anniversary on JP because I thought she was a very strong servant. But unfortunately, she's right next to the anniversary for us, and we actually know what we're getting for anniversary. We're going to be getting Archetype Earth, who, even if I don't think she's the best unit in the game, she's still very, very good. And not to mention extremely popular. So even if you don't care about their viability or what the meta is to making your Archetype Earth the most viable, you might just not care because it's Arcuine, you might just summon for her anyway. And then we also have Summer, which does bring, I would say, probably the strongest servants of the year in Proto Merlin, Summer Ibuki, and Summer Scotty. Summer Scotty pretty much allowing Quick to start doing things they weren't able to before, allowing them to start dipping into Black Grail farming. Proto Merlin literally just being Arts Merlin for the Arts team, which is very, very nice. And then Summer Ibuki basically being the best Arts looper in the game until Summer Melusine comes out next year. But even if Melusine's technically better, I'm still going to rep the big dragon over the small one, alright? I'm still going to give her her props. So it is very hard to recommend going for Baiken unless you are, say, a whale or a dolphin and you just want to have an easier time in the event because she does get a 100% power mod on all of these dudes, and she is rather strong. Tamatomo also comes out, and despite him being a pretty sick servant, I do think it's a bit unfortunate that he is not even story locked at all. He's not even limited, so he's on every single banner. You could potentially see him just randomly pop up into one of your pulls, or you could see him on one of the random 5-star tickets that they might give us for the 30 million download campaign, crossing our fingers. And so if you really want him, you could always wait for something like that, or if you really can't contain yourself, you could just go summon for him. He is admittedly very good. He's just got some really nice, good free stuff on his kit, which we'll get more into when we actually do the servant review for him, where I might actually answer the question of where I think he stacks with some of the other AoE Buster Archers, because we have enough of them that we can actually do a comparison. But enough of the summoning nonsense. What if you just want to get in here for some of the free-to-play stuff? Well, we're going to be getting a free-to-play CE that is, I think, kind of useful for our free-to-play players. Now, I'm assuming some more seasoned veterans do actually have CEs that are going to do the job better than this CE, but Heartbreaker is a 2k attack CE that starts you off with 50% NP gauge, gives you a 6% arts and buster buff, but most importantly, I would say, it pierces evasion. So if you do not have a CE that does this, this can be a very nice one to have for some of those boss fights where they might have an unremovable evasion. Think something like William Tell from Lost Belt 4. This can allow you to kind of just get around that. Or if you're going to be going into a fight where a boss spams evasion, or you're fighting a coup or something, someone who has the annoying hit-based evasion that has no turn fall off, right? It can be very nice for that. It's just good to have in your account. But again, more seasoned veterans are probably already going to have something for this, and so probably won't have much of a use for it outside of just the art being pretty good. I mean, who doesn't like seeing Tomoe on some nice artwork on a CE? But if you are newer, this might be useful for you for quite a bit. Now, what's going to be useful for everyone are going to be the command codes that are going to come out for this event. The first one, Blade of Love Without a Destination, features everybody's favorite mother, Raiko, unless you're me, and my favorite mother is Tiamat. But again, different debate for a different day. What is not debatable, though, is that this is a very, very strong command code to, sure, put on your Raiko, but really any strong DPS servant that you do find yourself using, as it is going to give them a 15% damage buff against demonic enemies and a 15% damage buff against servants that are Sky or Earth, which is very, very strong, as a lot of servants are Earth attribute, and Sky is nice when you have it. I know there's not a whole lot of Sky attribute servants, but it is very nice to have someone that can deal with them whenever they do crop up. It's one of those things that you never know you need it until you finally have it. So this is just very nice to put on most of your DPSs, but obviously you could throw it on someone like a Mao Nobu, you could throw it on somebody like a Raiko, because you're probably going to bring those servants to those battles against those Sky or Earth attribute enemies anyway. Might as well just give it to them. But if you're like me and you don't have either one of them, you can just throw it on one of your main DPSs. The 4-star CE Paintbrush of the Train, which is featuring Van Gogh, who I was talking about earlier. So again, I guess it is just because Hokusai is a Japanese painter that they get to be on the event bonus. But justice for my girl Van Gogh. Come on. She'd be really good for the challenge quest to just be able to blow them up. But what it does is it gives you 2 stars whenever you use the card, and it recovers your HP by 300, and it has a chance to inflict you with Curse for yourself for 3 turns. This is pretty obviously meant to be used with Van Gogh. But if you don't have Van Gogh, but let's say you do bring her as a friend to certain boss battles and you know what servant you're pairing her with, say for whatever reason you always bring a Van Gogh to help out with your Tyra, I guess, I don't know, just the first servant that came to my mind, you could throw this on them if you know you use them with Van Gogh. But obviously this is one of those command codes that is tailor-made to be kind of put on the servant that is featured on the artwork. And then finally we have Caval 2, which isn't actually all that bad. You slap it on one of your Buster cards, you get some extra star weight, and you get 10% crit damage, which is not bad. Obviously, you could put it on the namesake of the card, or I guess technically someone associated to the namesake of the card on Salter, and she would absolutely love this, as she does really have no innate crit damage to speak of, so this would actually give her cards a little bit more bite, which would be kind of nice, but realistically, you could throw this on any Buster DPS. It's fairly generic. This event is also going to be bringing a buff to both Lobo and Yugioh. Now, this isn't going to make them, like, nut-bustingly broken, you know, like, hold on, this is going to make them top tier, move them up into EX tier like that, but it does make them kind of nice. For Yugioh, it is increasing his NP scaling, because it's an NP buff, but then he also gets extra power mod against man attribute enemies, and the same thing can be said for Lobo over there, where he gets a man attribute power mod, but his is on a skill instead of on his NP. They're both rather good, as man attribute is really common, and as they are both single targets, they can help you out a lot more now moving forward into certain boss fights. Again, doesn't make them like the best servants ever, but these are very strong buffs for the both of them, even if they are pretty much the same buff because they're both getting the power mod. I guess I would say that Yugioh's technically benefits him a little bit more because now his NP scaling is going higher on top of also getting the power mod, so maybe you could say Lobo got a little bit shafted. Maybe they could have tossed him an extra buff on the skill, but I'm just happy they didn't forget about him. I'm happy that they at least threw a bone his way, pun intended. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the Baiken event, and that is probably going to be the main source of content for the month of June.